Farpoint just another tech demo for Sony's VR headset? Or does the game give us a visionary glimpse at the future of first-person virtual reality shooters? Quick warning ahead, since Farpoint is a very short game, there will be a few location and gameplay spoilers in the review.
And for those of you who are new to this, our ship is here to analyze a very special wave of radiation. We're all here just for that.
The game features a very classic sci-fi story setup. You take on the role of a space pilot on his way to pick up a team of researchers, Dr. Moon and Dr. Tyson, from a massive space station. As expected, things go terribly wrong and the space station crashes on an unknown planet. It is up to the player to find a way back home and find out what happened to the other crew members after the crash. Oddly enough, the story is mostly told through holographic tapes and video recordings and mainly focuses on Dr. Moon and Dr. Tyson. You're given little to no information about the pilot's backstory.
We have enough emergency rations to get us anywhere the Pilgrim is. We are not staying here. Survivors keep moving, okay?
While the plot starts out cliché-filled and uninteresting, the game does manage to add some interesting twists and drama later on to keep you guessing until the end.
Pilgrim, if you can read us, we don't know our location. We're down to our last emergency rations, but we found a HAB unit.
To clear up the mystery surrounding the crash, you will need to shoot your way through an alien planet full of life forms trying to kill you. The game does a good job creating the illusion that you are stranded on a vast open world planet, but you'll quickly find a lot of limitations if you decide to explore more thoroughly. There are invisible walls preventing you from deviating from the given path, and the couple of branching paths in the game always lead to the same destination. The game's core gameplay mechanics are very simple and don't add any new ideas to the well-known first-person shooter formula, but the game does a superb job translating these gameplay elements into virtual reality. A major reason why this translation works so seamlessly is the PlayStation VR aim controller that was developed alongside the game. Holding something in your hands that actually looks, feels and behaves like its in-game counterpart feels magic. A lot of actions that require the press of a button in traditional first-person shooters can be executed with intuitive motions using the aim controller. For example, to take aim through a scope, you simply hold the controller up to your face and look through the scope with one eye closed. To shoot out of cover, you physically lean out of cover and shoot. It's that simple. It's also interesting how the game handles directional movement. Going forward means going in the direction your gun is pointing, not the direction you're looking. This may take some time getting used to, but it's worth the effort because it gives the player more freedom while moving and also reduces unwanted side effects like motion sickness. Enemy encounters oftentimes feel like you're playing survival mode. The game releases wave after wave of enemies that need to be killed before you can move on to the next section of a level. Although fast movement is needed to dodge incoming attacks, the game mostly makes sure to place enemies in front of you instead of behind you. This also helps to prevent unnecessary fast turning motions and motion sickness. Much like the story itself, the game's enemies start out pretty boring. In the first couple of hours you will have to fight a variety of B-movie alien spiders that mostly rely on melee attacks and encourage an up-and-close personal combat.
What the hell is that?
The game mixes things up during the later hours and adds a bunch of new enemy types that rely on shooting instead of melee attacks. This significantly changes the way you tackle these encounters and encourages the use of more long-range weapons and cover-based shooting. These sudden gameplay changes are a very welcome addition as they prevent you from feeling too comfortable with your favorite combat strategy. It's worth noting that the last quarter of the game feels a bit uninspired and haphazardly put together, as the game throws everything into the mix and just continually raises the number of enemies to the point where it can feel tedious to clear a wave of opponents. You'll also notice that some checkpoints are placed very inconveniently, making you repeat sections where no active player input is needed before you can jump back into the action.
Assault Rifle. The UEP Assault Rifle is the standard issue rifle for UEP personnel.
One aspect of the game that lags behind traditional first-person shooters is weapon variety. There are just a couple of weapons in the game, and unfortunately the selection is hit or miss. And since there are not many opportunities to exchange your weapons, you risk being stuck with one that you don't like for a very long time. Unfortunately, like most VR games so far, Farpoint is a very short game. Don't be disappointed if you see the ending screen after merely 5 hours of gameplay. To keep you entertained after finishing the single player campaign, the game offers a challenge and online co-op mode. Both modes reuse and remix levels from the campaign and stuff them up with larger numbers of aliens to kill. These modes are a welcome addition and fun while they last. Just don't expect them to last forever.
You can't be serious.
Incoming fire! You have to move!
Farpoint's graphics are impressive to say the least. This might be the best looking PlayStation VR title so far. The game's desolate yet beautifully designed alien landscapes provide a perfect backdrop for its narrative focal points of fear, isolation, and desperation. As with most virtual reality titles, this beauty comes at the price of the already mentioned limiting level design. The game's musical score further emphasizes the already mentioned narrative themes, but ultimately fails to leave a lasting impact. It's worth noting that I encountered some technical issues, like slow loading textures, clipping issues, and instances where the aim controller tracking glitched out completely. Speaking of which, unfortunately, even under perfect lighting conditions, the motion tracking doesn't work flawlessly all of the time. The weapons you're holding tend to jitter noticeably, and I've had more than a few instances where the controls failed me completely and led to some unwanted deaths, especially during the second half of the game where precise, long-range aiming is key. In general, the game relies too much on being intuitive and self-explanatory and does a poor job explaining how to solve these technical problems or even how to set up some basic gameplay options.
Now, the universe is full of solar radiation, but what makes this radiation so special is that it has no discernible source. Masses of energy pouring into the universe from nowhere. So you can see why we're all so fascinated by it.
Limitless energy. Forever.
In conclusion, Farpoint is an exceptional and highly immersive experience that will fully absorb you into its world. The game does a superb job translating core first-person shooter mechanics into virtual reality. The minor technical hiccups can ultimately be forgiven in the greater scheme of things. Aside from being a great game, Farpoint also serves as a proof of concept that story-oriented first-person shooters work just fine with PlayStation VR. And it makes me excited for the future of virtual reality as a whole.